Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here today. This is your one-stop shop for cryptocurrency analysis, among many other things. Now, we're taking a look here today at Covalent, which is CQT, I believe it is, which the acronym doesn't really match the name, but that happens sometimes in crypto. It was probably already taken, or COV was taken. I'm not sure, but regardless, this is a technical analysis only. There's no fundamentals here, and I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only. I always recommend you do your own research and take ownership of your own trades, right? But I do want to thank my community members just before we get started here for recommending that I cover this. Usually coins like this that are more recent ICO dates are not on my radar, so thank you again for asking that I review this here for you today. My pleasure. Moving forward, also note that I have a signal group, so I share all my signals with my communities, or my community members rather, for my Patreon account. So check that out if you'd like, because I share all of my trades with my members, and it's been so far so good, about 80% success rate at this point. And all in all, we always provide you with entry points, best practice, sell targets, buy targets, profit targets, the whole nine yards, everything to make sure that you are better prepared in this crazy volatile market, right? But regardless of that, you don't not required, definitely not a problem. Check out the Telegram community though, if you get a chance. That's where the gold is out there. It's a free community. Got a good 600 plus members at this point, and we all just kind of learn and grow together and talk openly about cryptocurrency. So check that out in your own time. And without further ado, sorry I tend to ramble sometimes. Let's just go ahead and get to the charts. Let's check it out. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a look here at CQT, which is Covalent. And just before we do, we always look at Bitcoin and Ethereum first to get a baseline of the market so we know kind of how these coins are communicating or responding to each other, of course, because it's really important to do that. Because a good trader will always look at all the angles before they make an informed decision, right? And how do you make an informed decision if you don't have all the information? Okay. Now, obviously, you want to do fundamental, understanding of these coins too before you jump right in. Find out what CQT has to offer. But more importantly, when we look at the technical charts, we look at Bitcoin first. I'm using TradingView.com here. So I recommend the paid versions just because you have a lot more opportunity for indicators present at each time. Just makes a lot more sense. It's easier. I have a free month if you'd like the link. Check the links in the description below for that if you'd like to kind of consider maybe giving it a free trial run and see what's going on. If you like it, great. Continue. If not, that's all right too. But what we're going to do is look at the 4-hour chart for Bitcoin. Always enable the moving averages. These are the simple moving averages. 50 is this orange line here, and the 200 is the purple line. And they both work as support levels when the price is above, and of course resistance when the price is below. So obviously the price is above right now, but we will see this 50-day moving average be likely tested in the near future. Just based on this price hike up here, it's going to shoot up a little bit faster. So unless we keep seeing the price increase, we'll likely see that get tested. My guess is we're going to see some sideways action for a little while from Bitcoin, just based on the fact that it's ramped up a decent amount, somewhere in the range of like 7%, close to 8% in the last 24 hours alone. Okay, but now the price is up over 46,500. We have a secondary support at about right around 44,000. Actually, it's 44,200. I marked that based on the fact that we had somewhat of a support here yesterday around this time. And then, of course, another secondary support or tertiary support at 42,500. Minus that, I mean, really, it's pretty much just open season for Bitcoin to go ahead and shoot all the way up to about 51,000. That is essentially the next major resistance level, without not much in between. Okay, because we had that free fall from May 18th, which is kind of why we had this open option here, so to speak, right? So just again, something to note, that's where Bitcoin is at right now. Just remember that moving forward. Ethereum is a very similar situation. It has a major resistance about 3,500. We're right in the middle of this channel here between 2,900 and 3,500. So, pretty much the exact same carbon copy of Bitcoin, only it's less responsive to the major sell-offs, but also more responsive to the increases. So Ethereum is starting to ramp up, and it's starting to look like it did before here when Bitcoin had its first major sell-off, and it shot up to about 4,300 in just a few weeks. So we might see that happen again. You never know. Fingers crossed, and looking good. So moving on to the one-day chart for CQT. Now we'll just go ahead and omit that very first day of trading because that was technically June 23rd, and that was their ICO date. ICO dates are very crazy. You never want to trust the price. In fact, I never recommend investing on it at all. Some people like to kind of gamble. I'm not much of a gambler personally, so I prefer to avoid it because obviously the price shot up to a high of about $50. So imagine you had bought in around 40 or 30, 30, 40 20, even 10, you'd still be down like 500%. So just not ideal. Avoid it altogether, but that's kind of where CQT came from. So, Covalent is interesting because it's been moving very fast, very rapidly here recently, but obviously it started ramping up as soon as Bitcoin started to recover. See, Bitcoin recovered on the 21st, 22nd, it was sub 30,000, it jumped above there. Ever since then, Bitcoin's kind of been going on a tear, and Covalent's no different. In fact, it's getting more exponential as the days progress here. So this is interesting to me. I don't normally invest in coins like this because there's not a lot of data. So obviously you want to look at the fundamentals and find out why this is happening, because there's typically a strong fundamental catalyst causing the price action, but it could just be extremely undervalued. It had a terrible ICO date, and honestly, there's a good chance the price could be much higher because there's probably some good fundamentals again that we don't see here, and just some good value essentially. Whereas the price might need to be around $3 to $5, $10 even. We don't know yet. It will find its average true range in time, but right now it's kind of skewed based on the fact that the numbers are so low, or they were so low for so long. No one wanted to invest sub 30,000 when Bitcoin's just taking a dump. So on the one-day chart here, let's go ahead and take a look at obviously RSI and MACD are flawed, for lack of better terms, but you're going to see an RSI this high this far into the game. I'm willing to wonder here, or willing to bet we're we're in overtime here for TD sequential. I like to look at this on the 1 hour or the 1 day chart on scenarios like this because it tells us when we're at a state of market exhaustion. So I can tell you right now that investing currently right now is a big gamble. I would never recommend it just based on the technicals alone because we are in overtime here. In other words, we should have seen a retracement based on the traditional trading cycle. So 9 days of bullish trading, you're usually going to start seeing an inverse or an augmentation there of that momentum to shift to the downside. Now, obviously Bitcoin's doing very well, that's why this one is too, but generally speaking, we should have started to see a retracement about 58 cents, and instead we've seen an extra 7 days of trading. So you see these colors here, they're starting to get more and more neon. That basically tells you you are really far in that cycle, and we're going to see a turnaround. So just based on this alone, I would say we're expecting a retracement anytime soon. Be careful when you invest. If you were to set a stop limit that's maybe halfway in the distance of this 1 day increase, so you don't get stopped out. Or sorry, if you do get stopped out, you still take a profit. Because you have to be in the green somewhere unless you just took entry here today, right? So just be mindful of that. Set a stop limit. That's the important thing to do. Let's move on to the 4-hour chart. See if we can see anything else. I do kind of like this momentum here. It is kind of nice because, as you can see, it's not the perfect setup, but I like to see up overs. We can kind of see that here, but it started to ramp up here. So honestly, if you look at the RSI, it's still going to be way over 70. I would highly recommend considering trimming your profits if you are invested right now, setting a stop limit maybe at one of the more recent support levels. It is hard to identify support levels in these situations. So what I usually do is I just try to take the 1 day chart, and what we do is you pretty much just take a look at the kind of the largest movement, right? So if you just split this difference here, this 1 day chart here, then a support would maybe be around 145, right? So that's kind of the general rule of thumb in that sense, because most increases, they retrace about 50% of its original starting point. So I would recommend maybe a stop loss at about 145, something to that sense, to that effect, right? Now moving on, I guarantee we're going to be above the cloud on the Ichimoku cloud. And big picture, if you're not familiar with the cloud, if the price is above, it's considered a buy signal. So big surprise, it's considered a buy signal right now. And when it's below, it's considered a sell signal. It doesn't mean you want to jump in right now, though, honestly, because just because it's above doesn't mean it's a green light. It just means that you want to try to catch it when it crosses above, right? So if you look back here, this would have been an excellent entry right around 65, 66 cents. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. It does work as a support too, so there's a chance the price might come down and bounce off of it. But there's no guarantees with that. I'm expecting this to retrace. I wouldn't say heavily because we don't know what its average true range is yet, but I would say that it's going to probably go sideways, if nothing else, for a little while. We need it to go sideways in order for it to be continue on. Because if you see here, for example, it kind of went sideways for a little bit. That was about 6-7 hours of continuation, and that it was healthy. That helped it reset and get this extra leg up. So if we don't see some more sideways action here, we're going to be kind of in bad shape, and it could come crashing back down. Because again, if we look at TD sequential, We are actually, again, almost in overtime. You see this here, 1 through 8. So we might have one more green bar left in us before we start seeing a retracement. So I think we're nearing the end of this little the short-term life cycle of this bull run, and it would have to kind of go sideways for me to feel comfortable with reinvesting. Okay, so I want to see at least 9 to 10 hours more of either retracement or sideways action to essentially allow for us to consider reinvesting. All right, looking at the 15 here, just a quick peek. It's all, pretty much telling us the same story over and over. Extremely overbought. If we look at the EMA and VWAP, you'll see the standard deviation is extremely high. In other words, this is probably somewhere in the range of, oops, sorry, wrong one. It's probably somewhere in the range of 10%. Oh, I was way off. Terrible eyeball on that one. 25%. So if you're not familiar with the VWAP, it's the volume weighted average price. It's an acronym, of course, and it stands for the volume expressed as a price. So it takes the last 24 hours of volume, expresses it as a price, resets every 24 hours at 5 p.m. Pacific, 1 a.m. 1 a.m. UK time, I think that is. So generally speaking, though, the whole purpose of it is to kind of average out what the volume is, because the volume is an underrated metric. Nobody really uses it, and this really kind of translates that for you. So right now, the price should be, according to the volume, in the last 24 hours, $1.42, whereas the price is upwards of $1.70 right now. Okay, so that deviation, so to speak, is too high, and it has to come back down. We saw that happen right here as well. This was a standard deviation of over 10%. That was at 15, and it came and retraced. But here's the beautiful thing about VWAP. It's basically a support and resistance level. So when it's above, it's considered support. So you see right here, the price bounced off of the VWAP. So it held. Therefore, the bulls are still in control. Same scenario as well for the EMA. And by the way, this notification that I have is something I provide to my patrons. Check that out. I technically actually have a signal group that I send signals to my group, my community members of all the trades that I take. So we kind of all trade together. I have about an 80% success rate. And it's because of things like this. Obviously, everything we looked at so far, but more importantly, this little thing is kind of the icing on the cake. And what it does, it tells you when you have a good entry point. So if you're looking here, when the price is over EMA, that's the red line, it's considered bullish momentum. And when you get these little yellow indicators here, it basically tells me that I want to consider taking entry. So I've got 2 solid green bars in order. In other words, when I have 2 green bars on the 15-minute chart is 30 minutes. So you have 30 minutes of confirmation moving in the direction you want to head. Right? And it's also above support and it's above EMA. So you got like this triple threat, so to speak, telling you that you have ultimate confirmation. You're not searching for the bottom and kind of gambling. You're more so using educated guessing, if that makes sense. Okay, so had you took an entry here, to say, for example, you would have netted yourself, holding onto this position, and you sell right now, you'd be up 40%. Okay, so in retrospect, I really wish I had set this indicator on this, and we'll see what happens, but I think I will consider setting this notification here soon and paying attention to see if we get another leg up, right? But we need it to calm down, we need it to retrace, we need it to go sideways for at least, I would say again, 10 to 12 hours. We get 10 to 12 hours of sideways action and we start getting this notification above EMA and VWAP. That's golden. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm planning to take entry. All right, so that's just kind of stuff that I look at. And if you did find benefit from this, of course, please consider liking, subscribing, or referencing my Patreon community so you can go ahead and follow along with all my trades. And I can tell you that it's been a very good experience so far. In only 2 months, we've had over 40 members so far, so it's really, really awesome. So I'm thankful for all of my members. So thank you again to my patrons for recommending that I cover this here, because again, this is something I wouldn't normally pay attention to because I prefer the top 100 or just more so things that are a little more stable that I can rely on. New coins that are only 1 to 2 months old aren't usually on my radar. So that's just kind of the case. But again, I'm more of a patient and careful trader. So something like this just kind of seems like a warning signal to me. But regardless, there's definitely some good opportunity because we haven't found the average true range yet. All right, so thanks again for your time. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good rest of your day.